more now on all this, the rising gun violence happening across the country with Louisiana Senator John Kennedy, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's heartbreaking, Senator, to see this happening in our major American cities, and it seems to still be on the rise. What are we doing about it, Senator?
Well, our mayors obviously aren't doing enough. There are three things they ought to do immediately, in my judgment. Number one, don't defund the police. Number two, I love social workers, but don't send a social worker to do a cop's job. Number three, call Michael Bloomberg and Rudy Giuliani and ask those two former mayors how they got control of the violence in New York City. They will tell you they implemented stop, question, and frisk. They used it as it should be used, in a racially neutral manner. It's perfectly constitutional. Look at the 1968 opinion, Terry v. Ohio, written of all people by Chief Justice Earl Warren, probably the most liberal member we've ever had by the Supreme Court, on the Supreme Court.
The president has said, though, if those mayors of those cities that are seeing a spike in violence don't step in, don't do something to stop this, that he will offer federal assistance. Federal help will be offered to step in. Do you support that? And at what level should the federal government step in to stop the violence?
Well, I haven't talked to the president about it, but my understanding is he has offered many of our mayors federal help, and most, if not all of them, have said no. And we're reaping the consequences right now. I mean, a civilization, to be civilized, has to have rules, and you have to have somebody to enforce those rules, and that's the role of our cops. And so many of these mayors think that cops are guilty until proven innocent.
All right, I want to go to the messaging that we saw from the president yesterday, and obviously the former Vice President Joe Biden speaking in Delaware. The president speaking in the Rose Garden went on the attack against Joe Biden on his record. Listen to these.
This is all that Donald Trump and the Republicans offer. Backward-looking policies that will harm the environment, make communities less healthy, hold back economic promise, while other countries race ahead.
There has never been a time, and this is just a few, it's much worse than that. We did this very quickly. It's probably never been a time when candidates are so different.
So what did you think of all that? Because obviously the critics are saying the president shouldn't have delivered a campaign-style speech like that from the Rose Garden. Wasn't exactly what was promised. But meanwhile, while you've got the polls indicating Joe Biden leading, you've got Tommy Tuberville in Alabama pulling off a victory last night. He's a Trump-supported candidate. So what does this say about President Trump's re-election chances?
Well, I can just tell you, Sandra, why I'm not going to vote for Vice President Biden. He's a proponent of the I deserve, you owe me mentality. I'm not. I believe in free will and responsibility. Biden thinks he can tax, spend, and regulate America into prosperity. I don't. I believe in more freedom. He believes in more free stuff. I think the vice president, or at least the people that are going to run the show, think abortion is a moral good. I don't. I think the vice president thinks that the way you handle China and Russia and Iran and North Korea is give them a big hug and a cup of cocoa. I don't. I think you have to be firm with them because weakness invites the wolves. It's just a fundamental difference. And if the American people are asked, I think and understand what he stands for, I think they'll see that the vice president, for whatever reason, took a hard left and kept driving.
All right, I want to move on to how you spent your day yesterday with the Vice President, Mike Pence. There in Baton Rouge in Tiger Stadium. There was a roundtable discussion. Even Coach Orgeron was present for this. But Mike Pence went on to say he believes that Louisiana public schools should open even if CDC guidance can't be followed. Listen.
Later this week, we anticipate that Dr. Redfield and the team at CDC will issue additional guidance. We don't want CDC guidance to be a reason why people don't reopen their schools.
So if the schools can't follow what President Trump has clearly laid out is almost difficult to follow guidance in many cases, costly to the schools, et cetera, open anyway, do you support that message?
Well, first, we were at LSU, where you were a scholar athlete. I used to teach there. We had a great day. Here's what I heard the vice president say. He said, look, the CDC guidelines are guidelines. Education's a local decision. Use your own good judgment. Here's what I also heard him say. These are my words, not his. For whatever reason, and this is a good thing, our kids don't seem to be as susceptible, or at least get nearly as sick as adults do from the coronavirus. I think we've had 30 deaths of kids under 15. That's 30 too many, of course. I think that keeping the schools closed is going to do far more harm to our kids than the coronavirus ever can. Now, it's up to the parents. I believe parents ultimately are responsible for their kids. If you don't want to send your kid back to school, don't. If you're a teacher and you don't want to go back, don't. That's between you and the school board. But I just think that for many of our children in America, school is the most stable thing in their lives. It's more than just education. It's health care, it's mental health, it's counseling, and we need to get them open. And I've watched dozens of other countries do it. Even Vietnam, for God's sakes, has opened up their schools. If they can do it safely, we can too.
But part of the problem is,
I do think it's also been politicized, Sandra.
Absolutely.
I think that there's some politicians in Washington that, not all now, I don't want to paint them too broad a brush, but I think that they like the political chaos of having our schools closed. They think it'll help them in November. I just think we ought to think about the next generation, not the next election.
Democrats obviously are pushing back on that message very hard, that their priority is the children. It is the safety of the children. So that's a debate that's firing up as well. But there seems to be mixed messaging even inside of the White House when it comes to all of this. Now you've got this new op-ed in USA Today penned by Peter Navarro, an economic advisor to the president, where he's essentially making the case that Dr. Fauci is wrong. Here's a piece of it. Anthony Fauci's been wrong about everything I've interacted with him on. Dr. Anthony Fauci's a good bedside manner with the public, but he's been wrong about everything I've interacted with him on. So when you ask me whether I listen to Dr. Fauci's advice, my answer is only with skepticism and caution. I'll quickly point out that the White House has reacted to this. The director of strategic communications said that this did not go through normal White House clearance processes and is the opinion of Peter Navarro alone. The president values the expertise of the medical professionals advising his administration. But Senator Kennedy, does it help to have this mixed messaging and to have someone on the president's team publicly attacking the lead infectious disease expert advising the president?
I know both Mr. Navarro and Dr. Fauci. I like them both. I respect them both. I trust Dr. Fauci. But I don't think it's a newsflash that Mr. Navarro and Dr. Fauci have not gotten along from day one. This is not the first time they've tied up. I don't know why Peter wrote the column. You know, it is what it is. He's entitled to his opinion. This is America, or at least for now, we're entitled to our opinion. I would have preferred that he not write it. I was with the Vice President, Dr. Birx, yesterday, and Seema Verma, and the Admiral, and, you know, everybody's on the same page. I know the Vice President thinks the world of Dr. Fauci. I do. Is he right 100% of the time? No. None of us are. We're learning every day about this virus.
All right, Senator John Kennedy, appreciate your time this morning. We've got calls into the White House, of course, on that. So we'll have more throughout the morning. And Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator.